Hello fellow crafters, Lori here with the Crafty Connection, and today I am doing a collaboration with Amy from Craft with Amy. I will link her channel below, and we are each doing 3 signs, fall themed, and we are only using what we have left in our stash to do this. So no new products, and because we both have a lot of fall items left still to craft with, so I guess in an attempt to eliminate some of those and make a few more fall things, this is what we decided to do. So again, her name is Amy from Craft with Amy. Check her channel out, her descriptions below in my description box. So for sign 1 of the 3 that I am doing, for this first one, you're going to need, if you want to make this, I am using this acorn shaped wood plaque from Dollar Tree. I am using 4 of these little acorn wood cutout ornaments. It's an 8-pack that comes from the Dollar Tree. You only need 4. I'll be using some caulk that I also have from the Dollar Tree. You don't have to use this. This is optional. I'm going to be using some apple barrel burnt umber, some Waverly antique wax, and some Waverly chalk paint in the color of cashew. I'm also going to be using some twine. And then I'm also going to be using, for me, a stencil that I cut out on my Cricut. If you don't have a Cricut or you don't want to do that, you can easily use some of these wood letters from Dollar Tree. You could use stenciling, you could use stickers, whatever you prefer. But I am using my Cricut to cut out a stencil. Okay, so that's what you'll need for that. Let me set some of this out of the way. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to stain up my acorns with the Waverly antique wax and cut off the tag. And then if you can see, you can decide what way you want your acorn to sit. I want mine to sit this way. And then what I did is I took a pencil or a pen and I just kind of just made a freehand line from each corner here, because I'm not going to need any of the wax on this part here. I will need some on the stem. And I'm also going to put the antique wax on these 4 ornaments. So before I do any of that, I want to put some wood filler in to the holes of these. You can do these with hot glue, you can do them with any kind of wood filler you have. I'm going to use some of the spackling from Dollar Tree, because that's what I have in my stash. So all you do is just take whatever you're using and put them inside of those little holes. You can always put a piece of masking or painter's tape at the bottom, and that helps hold in the spackling from going through the back. But I'm not doing that today because I don't know where any painter's or masking tape is at the moment, and we are using what we have in our stash. So I think if I just leave them flat on a surface, that'll work just fine. Alright, so once those dry, I will sand them smooth, as well as sanding around this bigger acorn because it was cut with very rough. So I'm going to let those dry and sand my acorn, and then I'll be back to put the antique wax on. Alright, so I have these acorns all stained up with the Waverly Antique Wax. I did do the back, because I always like to have a nice finished look on the backs of mine. And I did all the sides in the front, everywhere except for right here. And on the acorns, I just did them front and back and on the sides of all four. And then what I'm going to do next, now you can totally skip this step if you want. It's just something I like to do. And I like to take my caulk, which this is from the Dollar Tree. I did a video doing the same idea in a previous video, which I will link it below if you want to see it. But it's going to be the exact same thing as this. And I had an extra tube from when I bought for the other one. So I'm going to do it again. And all I do is I just take the caulk and I put it on my part here that I want to have the caulk on. And then I just use my finger to start by spreading it out so I can see where I'm at and how much more I'm going to need to cover. And then when I get down here, I'm going to go just on that line there because A, I don't want to see the line, and B, that's what I made the line for, was to know where I needed to put my caulk. I just want to get it all covered first. Does not have to be perfect. If you can find me an acorn that looks perfect, then we may change our tune. But so I'm just gonna go along here and cover up that pencil line that I made. Once I get it all covered, just gonna kind of smooth that out. Alright, now it's the fun part. And you could leave it just like that. And if you don't want to caulk it, you could just paint it. Do whatever you want. You could put fabric on it, burlap on it, nothing at all on it. I mean, it's your project. This is just how I do mine. Just trying to give some inspiration. So I'm putting some more, so I'm thickening up what I have on here. And I'm going to put some more up here on the top and along the bottom. Just thickening it up. This would make some good snow too for winter or Christmas DIYs. Alright, so then what I'm going to do is take my finger and I'm just going to dab around in the caulk to make little peaks. I'm going to turn it to get my bottom here a little more peaked. Make sure you get the edges. You can do this as much or as little as you want. I like texture on my projects, and this really gives it a lot of texture. Alright, I'm just going to take my baby wipe and wipe my finger for the moment till I can get to the sink. Then I'm also going to take the same baby wipe and just kind of go across here if you get smeared any onto the stem of the acorn. Like so. Alright, so this has to dry for quite a while. I will let you know exactly how long it took to dry once it's dry. And then I'm going to take these little acorns here and I'm going to do the exact same thing. So what I want to do is look on both sides and find the side I like the best and leave those upward. And then I want to make sure, well, these are all going straight up and down, so you don't have to make sure your stem's going any specific way. And I'll do one of these for you on camera and the rest of them I'll do off. And again, I just take my pencil and I go from corner to corner. Just freehand a line, doesn't have to be perfect. Hopefully you can see that line there. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing here. Obviously it's not going to take near as much caulk. And again, using my finger, just getting that base coverage. And then along that line, you just want to take, you know, take your time getting the base covered, because you don't want it to slop down. So I'm just going nice and slow, pushing it down just to cover that pencil line I made. Making sure I get it on the ends. And then using my finger again. Making that texture. Getting down here on the base where the line is. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Alright, wipe my fingers again. And if you notice on this one, I did get a little bit down. So I'm gonna just take my wet wipe and run it right there along. Carefully, just kind of wiping it up. And then setting this one over here to dry, and I will do the other three the exact same way. And then when these are all dry, I will be back. Okay, so I'm back and my caulk is kind of dry. Not completely, it's kind of spongy, but it's dry to the touch. So what I've done so far is I've just set my small little acorns at the bottom where I kind of want them to sit, so I know, because I'm going to put my stencil pieces on first. So I'm going to take the transfer tape or the backing off of the vinyl, which I probably should have did this first because it takes me forever to get it. Oh, there we go. So I'm just going to pull the backing off of the vinyl. And like I said, you can use stencils for this, Dollar Tree letters, really whatever you want. So I want to put that about right there. Now I can take these off. And go ahead and get this down. Good. And then take the transfer tape off. And then I'm going to put this up here, but I can't do it till I take this part off. So I'm going to go ahead and do the stencil. And when I do my stencils, I always start with a layer of Mod Podge to help with the bleeding. And I don't have any brushes here, so let me grab those and I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm going to just use some of the Mod Podge matte that I got from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to put it on my plate here. You could put it directly on your stencil if you chose. But anyway, I do this just to help with the bleeding. And this does pretty good with not bleeding on its own. But if I'm going to put the time into a project, I want to, I want the best results. I'm just making sure I get it in on the tips of the letters, well, the whole letter, but just making sure I get it all covered with the Mod Podge. This dries clear, for anyone that doesn't know that already. And I'll just give it a nice wipe. And that does not take long to dry. So we'll let that dry, and then we will go ahead and work on actually we'll let that dry, and I'm going to put the letters on here, same way I'm doing this. And I will do that off camera. Alright, so the Mod Podge is dried on here, and I just want to show you, I did go ahead and put the letters on here. The two that'll be in the middle, I put even, and then the ones that are on the end, as you can see, I put towards the side, so when they're laid out, they'll all show. And what I'm going to do now is take the Waverly chalk paint in Cashew and put some on my plate. Get my little, I'm using the little sponge dabber from Dollar Tree. I'm going to just dab these on. And this will probably take 2 coats. Just being careful not to get over the vinyl here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on these. And as soon as this dries, which won't take long, I will put the second coat on. And then when they're all dry, I'll come back and we'll pull the vinyl off. Alright, so the paint is dry finally. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the stencil off. I've already pulled them off of the small acorns. just weed out the middle of the O. There we go. Now I still have the I'm I need to put on, which I'm going to stick it right there. But I will do that after. I want to go ahead and dry brush around the edges of this and the little acorns, and all I do for that is I just take the color I'm going to use, which I'm using the Waverly chalk paint in Cashew. And get my napkin out. And I'm using one of these little chunky brushes from Dollar Tree. It's been used before, but cleaned. And I dip it in my paint, and then I dab off most of it. And I just take my piece that I'm doing it on, and I start on the edge, and I just go around it. And you can go as much or as little as you like. I'm doing this one kind of light. Sometimes I get a little heavy-handed in spots, but to me that just adds to the look, and I am perfectly fine with that. And then I just go back around it, get to more where it was super thin. And that's all I do for that. Sometimes I'll go through and dry brush on the actual acorn, but I think with the texture that we're putting on here and the stuff down here that it's really not necessary, and I may change my mind as we go along with the DIY. We will see. So I'm going to go ahead and do it on the small acorns also. So you can just see just a light little outline, so when you put it on this acorn, it just kind of outlines it and gives it a little more pop. So I'm going to go ahead and dry brush these, and I will go ahead and put this the I'm up here and get the paint put on. This is almost completely dry. It's pretty hard, but not completely. It does take quite a while to dry, and I will let it continue to dry because I don't want to paint over it while it's anywhere still wet, because I don't want to get any mold on it. So I will go ahead and finish dry brushing my little acorns, putting this other piece on, and then I'll be back. Alright guys, I did went ahead and let this caulk sit overnight to make sure it was good and dry, which it is now, and it's hardened up. So all I'm going to do now is paint this, and I'm using Apple Barrel Khaki acrylic paint. I've already done the smaller ones. And then after we paint this and it dries, we're going to dry brush over it with a darker color to bring out the texture in here. And like I said, if you didn't do this step here, you would just have this painted or fabric or whatever you're putting on yours. And if you notice, there's a blue line here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's from the pen I used to make the line, and that's fine. It's gonna get painted over anyway. So I'm just using a regular paintbrush and slowly just going across the bottom. And this does not have to be a perfect line, because you kind of want it to be a little, not really curvy, but textured. Because I don't know any acorns that are perfect, although some of them do look pretty perfect. Nature does have a way of producing some pretty perfect looking things. But anyway, so I'm just going to keep going across the bottom. And the reason I'm using this kind of brush on this is because of all the texture. It's a lot easier to get into the little nooks and crannies. So I just carefully go around the bottom there. This part is much easier. And then I'm going to go up here to the top and go across the top of the stem area. And then the rest of it's just real quickly going over it. It's almost, this color almost looks like peanut butter on here. Which I'm sure, if it was a real acorn, the squirrels would love a peanut butter topped acorn. So anyway, as you're going across here, you just want to make sure you're getting into all those little nooks and crannies. So you can see what I'm doing there. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of this off camera. And when it's dry, I'll be back so we can do the dry brushing. Alright guys, so these are paint is dry now. I went ahead and did the small ones here. So I'm going to show you how I did those with the large one. And all I did was I took one of the chunky chip brushes and dipped it in some, I used the apple barrel burnt umber for this instead of the antique wax. And I just am gonna go across the texture of the caulk. And I'm also gonna go around here on the bottom, the sides, and then I'm gonna do how I do on the edges of there. Just take the brush and going in an upward motion there. I'm gonna get a little more paint, and then I'm gonna go around these edges just like I did on the other part of the acorn, and then it just gives it a nice finished look. And then I'm going to do the same thing right up here by the stem, and then go back over it if I find any spot that I think needs a little more of the dry brushing. And I think that looks good. Alright, so now the next step is to put the small acorns on. So I'm gonna use the super glue, wood glue from Dollar Tree, as well as some hot glue for instant hold. And I'm gonna position them how I want them. And I didn't get this perfectly centered onto here, so I was thinking that maybe I should take it up to the side, perhaps. I will let you know in a moment what I'm thinking. Which I think it looks perfectly fine like that. So I'm going to start with the F here. So I'm going to add some hot glue to the back of it. plugged it in, so it's. And I'm going to put it on and press it down so it gets that instant grab, and that'll hold it in place while we do the rest of them, as well as until the wood glue dries. I just realized I put wood glue on the whole thing, and I need to wipe that off. And of course, no video of mine would be complete without one of the dogs barking. One of these days, when I get back in my craft room, because it's cooled down now, I didn't have air conditioning in my craft room, so I've been crafting in my kitchen, where I'm out here where the dogs are. Well, they're everywhere, but they're not in the craft room, so. But anyway, once I get back in there and get everything cleaned up, I will show you them one by one, so you can see who are the bark bombers in my video. I did get a little paint and stuff here that I will go back and touch up later, just because I like the finished back. That's me. Alright, on to the A. And then I have the L and the L. So I kind of want to put this one in first. Alright, so I'm going to lay this one down, and I'm going to just make a little mark there so I know where the tip goes. Trying to remember I don't need to put the glue on the bottom. Right, and some hot glue. Alright, let me find my little mark and press this one down. Make sure I didn't. There's a teeny bit there. Alright, I'm getting glue everywhere. Alright, then the A is going to go right in here. Oops, this was supposed to go under here. Ruh-roh. And it's down, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. Okay. Piece of hot glue here that I'm gonna pull off of there. Alright, and then this one looks like I may have to figure out that one, glue it on, but that's not gonna look right whatsoever. Alright, so I'm gonna figure this out, and then once I do, I'll come back, and then I have some little twine bows to put here, and then this one will be finished. Alright, fellow crafters, we are here with sign DIY number 2. For this one, I used one of these pumpkin forms from Dollar Tree. And all I did is I cut off the twine, pulled this bow off, and it was not salvageable. It's super thin and it sticks. And I pulled off as much paper as I could. Then I sanded it down so it was as smooth as I could get it. And then I painted both sides. And what I did is I put a layer of Waverly chalk paint in white. And when that was almost dry but still a little wet, I added the Apple Barrel Harvest Pumpkin. And then I just kind of went across it and kind of got a distressed look. Then I took some Apple Barrel Burnt Umber and one of these chip brushes, and I dipped it and dabbed off most of the paint and went around and distressed it and went across this way. Now if you'll see here, there is some stuff here. This is my third attempt at this sign. I tried to use vinyl to stencil, and this things that these signs are made out of just don't work well. It pulls up the paint and everything else, which I've learned that from before. I just wanted to try it again. Needless to say, that was a fail. So I am now going to show you how I dry brushed it real fast. I just, like I said, I dip it in some of the burnt umber and dab off the excess, and I'm using one of these chunky brushes from Dollar Tree. I've done most of this. I just want to show you what I'm doing. I just go along the edges and lightly brush them on, just to give it a nice edge. And then I just take my brush and I lightly go across the pumpkin. I'm just trying to give it a pretty little, I don't know how pretty, but a distressed look. This part is completely optional. You absolutely don't have to do this. You can just paint it one solid color. I just like to add in the extra, I guess. And just go along and make sure I have any of the bare spots covered. Now normally when I do signs, I will cover these holes with spackle or wood filler, but today I'm not, because I'm going to be using these for the hanger, because this is a double-sided sign. So anyway, I have all this on, and like I said, on this other side is worse. You can still see some of the outlay of the paper and things, but hopefully when it's covered you won't notice that so much. Alright, so moving on. Get this out of my way. Now I'm going to take my vinyl. I did cut out a vinyl for these on my Cricut. If you don't have a Cricut, you could easily just use stickers, Dollar Tree wood letters. You could print out a printable to say what you wanted on your sign and Mod Podge it down. I can't show you that today because my printer has decided to stop working. So I'm going to use my cutout I designed on my Cricut, and I'm just gonna, and this vinyl is actually from the Paper Studio. It's removable vinyl. They had a sale, so I grabbed a few sheets of it, and it's in a brown color to kind of match the brown of the pumpkin. Never used it, so we'll see today how it works. And I may end up having to Mod Podge it down because it's removable. Not sure yet, but I will let you know as soon as I know. So I'm just going to go ahead and peel the vinyl off of the paper back. Maybe. Here we go. And this already has transfer tape on the front. I just need to make sure that everything is stuck down. So let me run this little gadget. Cricut makes these too. This was actually one I got from the Dollar Tree. And then as you're taking the vinyl up, just go nice and slow because you want to make sure you get your whole transfer on there. This is obviously going to take me a minute, so let me pause it and I'll come back as soon as I get it off. Alright, so I have all the backing off of my transfer. Now I'm going to attempt to line this up. Just rub the I have never used these vinyl individual sheets before, so this is a new one for me. Trying to get all these air bubbles out. Up the transfer tape. Maybe I'll start over here. There we go. And you want to go slow when you're doing these to make sure that everything is going to be stuck down as you go. I am using Dollar Tree transfer tape, and I actually like it. I've used it several times. Anyway, just slow and steady when you're taking this off. And now I'm just going to take my piece over my letters and just make sure everything is good and stuck down. And then I'm going to weed it out and I will be back. Alright, so I have my vinyl cutouts all put on my sign. And this is the one. I know it's backwards and I apologize. But sorry, out of candy, happy Halloween. And since we're using what we had in our stash, I didn't have any like bats or ghosts or any embellishment. So I cut some out on my Cricut and I just put them on there. And on the back, I put Trick or Treaters Welcome with a couple bats and a cutout piece of candy here. So that's really all I did. I know I didn't show a lot of it, but my videos are really long and I'm trying to close them down. So just to recap, all I did was I put some white Waverly chalk paint down, then I put some Harvest Orange Apple Barrel over it as it was still a little wet. I dry brushed around the edges with the Apple Barrel Burnt Umber and painted the stem, and then I dry brushed over this. When I was taking the weeding out the stencil piece, it did pull up some of the tape here, but I actually like the way it looks. It gives it a really more of a distressed look. I did try to take some piece of vinyl and like lay it here and pull it up to get the more of that look, but it didn't work, but I'm okay with it. And same thing on this side. This one's just a little lighter, just because I think I put more white on this side, distressed it here. So to finish this project off, I need to make a hanger for here. And what I'm going to do is open up the holes as they got shut with paint. And I'm just sticking my Cricut tool in there. But you could use anything, a toothpick, end of a paintbrush, really whatever you have. And then I'm going to take some twine for these, and I also want to either put some twine or rope right here. So let me make the hanger first. And all I'm doing is taking a piece of Dollar Tree twine, and I'm going to put it through the hole. And once I get it through, I'm going to knot it on each side a few times so it doesn't come through the hole. So about 3 times. Just trim it off. Decide how long I want it to be. About, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Oops, wrong way. Sometimes if you don't get a clean start with it, it likes to bunch up on you. But it's small enough it should go through. There it goes. Alright, do the same thing here. Trim it down. There's our hanger piece. Obviously I didn't trim both. Alright, and then I'm just going to take my lighter, because this twine is super hairy. I just want to get that off. Try not to burn yourself, like I just did. And then for the stem, I'm going to take a piece of nautical rope. And I'm going to pull it apart. Maybe. That or some twine, but I got to plug my glue gun up. I'll be right back. Alright, sorry, I had to get that glue gun hot. So I decided to take a piece of the rope and broke it down into one of the 3 strands. And I'm just going to put some hot glue right here on the end of the stem. And I'm going to glue this down. And then I'm going to wrap it, but as I'm wrapping it, I am going to put a little down here on the bottom of the stem to keep it where I want it. And that's just going to help cover up the orange and the brown paint. And I'm not going to go up on this all the way, just a few rows. Just give it a little something more than a plain stem. that's about as far as I'm going to go. So I'm going to put some glue here on the very end. And press it down. And then I'm going to trim it off. I'm trying not to cut my hanger piece. Right. Then I'm just going to take some glue here where it didn't all lay down. Use my little finger protector and just kind of push those strings of the twine down so it's all covered. I'm going to take the end piece that I just cut and then just kind of slide it over and press it down. Just to give it a nice finished look and to keep it from fraying. Got hot glue everywhere here, which I will pick that off when I'm done. Just getting the pieces that hit straight off of the twine or rope. Alright. So I will pick this glue off here, but for now you can see. So we have a sign that, well, that needs to be fixed. That's what we have. There we go. Alright, so if that happens, just put a little hot glue on the end of your twine and twist it. And that should go right through your hole again. Just kind of twist it in there. And try that again. I think I'd only put 2 knots when I did that one, so let me put a 3rd just to be safe. There we go. Alright, easy fix. So now you have your hanger. So you would just hang this on your door or on like a wreath hook. So you have letting people know you're doing trick or treat, you're welcoming your trick or treaters, and when you're all done or the candy's gone, you just flip the sign over and letting the trick or treaters know you're out of candy. Super cute sign, super easy to make, and like I said before, these could easily be done with stickers, little embellishments of little bats that I'm sure you can find anywhere. I just didn't have any, and part of this collaboration was using what you have on hand. So there you are. I hope you enjoyed this one, and we're going to move on to our last one, DIY number 3. Alright, we are to sign number 3, our 3rd and final sign for the sign collaboration. And for this project, I am using one of these cutting board shapes from Dollar Tree. And what I'm doing with it is I'm cutting off the twine hanger, which I've already done. And I have tried to pick off most of the paper, but this paper is not going anywhere. So I sanded it down to get it somewhat smooth. For the project, we're going to use the back side, and this side we'll cover with craft paper to give it a finished look. So to start, we're going to pull off the sticker, and then we're going to paint. And what I'm going to paint with is I'm going to be starting with the Waverly chalk paint in the color of cashew. So I'm just going to paint my board, and I'm going to paint it on all the sides here and the whole board and give it one good coat. I'm not going to do that on camera because I'm pretty sure we all know how to paint. But just make sure you're getting the sides, because those will be seen, as well as just the one side, because the back side we're going to cover with craft paper. So let me get this painted and then I'll be back. Alright, so I have the first coat on and dried, and I did dry it with my heating tool, also known as the blow dryer. And then I put a second coat on, and it's still a little damp. So what I'm going to do before it dries completely is I'm going to take some of the apple barrel burnt umber, and I'm going to put a couple dots of it. Whoops, that was more than I needed. And then I'm going to take another sponge brush, and I'm going to get a little bit of the cashew on this brush. So just a little. And I'm going to take this and go along the board. Just kind of mixing it all in here. And what I'm looking for is kind of a distressed wood look for this. I'm just gonna get a hair bit more. Didn't need to get that much. Let me wipe some of that off. There we go. So I'm gonna do this on camera so you can see the look I'm trying to get here. And then once I get this all put on, then I'm going to get some more of the cashew and then run it back over, kind of a messy brush of it. So I'm just kind of looking for that old chippy wood look. Okay, so I'm going to let this, or I'm going to dry it, and then come back and I'll show you how I finish up the techniques I'm using to get this look. Okay, so now that this is dry, next I'm going to take a chip brush, or I think these are called chunky brushes from Dollar Tree. It's obviously been reused. But anyway, I'm going to take some of the cashew, dab some of it off, and then I'm just going to go through here nice and lightly. And I'm just going to just add more of that old wood look. And I'm just going to keep doing it until I like the way it looks. Making sure I get it here on the bottoms. And you could do this with any colors you like. I just chose the cashew and the burnt umber. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. All right, so that's it for the painting. So I'm going to run the blow dryer over this for a few minutes just to make sure it's super dry before we move on, and then I'll be back. Okay, so the paint's all dry and I'm ready to put my transfer on. I did use my Cricut and cut out my transfer. I wanted to use a paper printable for this, but my printer stopped working, so because we had to use what we have on hand, I ended up using the Cricut for this one also. But you could use stickers, Dollar Tree letters, printables where you Mod Podge them on. So many different options. So I'm going to go ahead and put my printable down and try to get it as even as I can here. And I'm putting mine down some because I'm going to put a bow on this. So I have it down. I'm going to use this little tool. You can get these for your Cricut. Mine came from the Dollar Tree. Right, and then I'm going to pull the transfer tape up, going nice and slow to make sure everything is stuck down. Take my little tool and go over this again. And I'm going to start weeding. I will start doing some of it on camera for you and the rest off. So I'm going to pull up the vinyl. Paying attention as I go to make sure that everything that's supposed to be stuck is stuck. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pull the vinyl off and weed it out, and then I'll be back. Alright, so I have my vinyl piece on and all weeded out, and this is what it looks like here. So you could totally leave it like this. I'm gonna go and add a few more things to mine, kind of bring it up a notch. So what I did is I took some apple barrel khaki and some apple barrel, what is this? Antique white. And I mixed them together to try to get, a nice color of hay or straw. And then, if you can see here, I'm just going in on where the hay or straw would be sticking out from the scarecrow. And I'm painting it. I did it all but one, so I'm just taking a tiny little small paintbrush. and just kind of going slow here, but getting in between the outline of the scarecrow. It's not perfect. Nothing ever is in life. And then I'm just gonna wipe this off. Now I'm not trying to give him a full coat of paint everywhere. I'm just trying to give him a few little pops of color because of what else I'm gonna add. And then for the little band here on his hat, I'm gonna just make an orange, like an orange sash on there. And I'm actually using some of the orange, it's actually pretty bright, from Dollar Tree, their acrylic paint. And I just need a teeny tiny bit, but any orange will work. And the reason I'm using this bright orange is because I'm going to be adding some pumpkins to it, and they are bright orange. So I'm going to just get some paint there on my brush and do the same thing up here as I did on the pieces of the hay or straw that's sticking out from his clothing. And I'm just going to give his band a nice orange stripe. And that is all the color that I'm adding to mine. Like I said, I was just looking for that pop of color because of what I'm going to put down here as soon as this dries. So you'll see. But you can paint yours as little or as much as you want. Not at all. Choice is yours. Alright, so let me let this dry and I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, so we have the paint dry on the scarecrow. So next I'm going to put the bow together. And I'm using Dollar Tree ribbon that I had in my stash. So I just want to show, on a lot of Dollar Tree ribbon you get these glittery end pieces, which are actually the wired pieces also. But I don't necessarily need the wiring, and I'm not a fan of that. So I just took those, and the ribbons that had this one had some too, if you can see. And I took them and just cut the ends off of the ribbon right there. You can leave yours on if you like that look. I particularly don't, so I took mine off. Okay, let me throw these end pieces away. And we'll move on to the bow. And I'm just making a messy bow for this. So I took 6 different bows, ribbons, and I cut them all down. So I'm just going to quickly show you how I do it. Oh, I left one edge on there. I think I did that to show you how I cut it. Which, I just cut it off like so. And this is like a orange burlap ribbon. So I have that one. Then I'm gonna, well, I must have obviously just forgot to do that other side of this ribbon. Alright, try. So I'm gonna make an X shape with it. And then next I have some burlap looking ribbon with pumpkins on it. Doing the same thing here, making an X. Boy, my cutting skills are not so good today. Missed a piece of the glitter, so making an X there. Then I'm going to put my burlap pieces down. Again, making an X. And I have this brown ribbon. It does have some of the glitter on the inside of it, but that part I was okay with. And then I have another little piece of burlap ribbon that's smaller. And some with pumpkins. Okay, once I get all those put on, I am just going to gather them up and pinch them together, trying not to lose any in the process. Anyway, pinch, pinch, pinch. Okay, they are pinched. Then I'm just grabbing a piece of twine and I'm going to wrap it around there, tightening it as I go. And then I'm going to tie a knot, trying to get it as tight as I can. This twine is coming apart, so I'm just trying to make sure I get it good and knotted so it doesn't come undone. Oh my goodness, here. Twine, twine. My twine is all coming unraveled. Did not pick the best piece for that. Alright, trying to keep it together. There we go. One more for good measure. Alright, and then I just pull it tight and I trim off the excess, and then we can just kind of fluff it out as we go. And then this will be the last part we put on, so we'll trim it up and do that at the end. So moving on here, so I have some of this hay that came in these little bales from the Dollar Tree, and I opened it and took it apart and it was a mess, so I put it in a Ziploc. So what I'm gonna do is open up my little bag, and then I took some of these pumpkins from Dollar Tree. They're little styrofoam pumpkins, and there's 4 on a pack, and I literally just cut them in half. And how I did this, so like say this is the pumpkin, the whole pumpkin, I just took a little sharp knife and I cut one side with the stem on, the bigger side, and then the smaller side without. And I did this really slow so I could get a really nice clean cut. And I'm going to take my pumpkin and put a little hot glue towards the front of it. So you can see kind of how I did that. And I'm going to take that pumpkin and put it into the bag of hay. Pull out those huge chunks just to get some hay on it like this. And I'm going to do that to all 4 pieces, and we can trim as we're getting this put together. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. To all 4 of my pumpkin pieces. And one more. And doing it that way, it does kind of minimize some of the mess. Alright. Alright, So what I want to do now is take my pumpkins and I want to position them down here around my little scarecrow. Like this, 2 on each side. And then I'm going to glue those down, just using some hot glue. And then we do the same thing on this side. But I think I'm going to put the smaller one on here and then the bigger one next to it. Just so it's not all perfectly lined up. Okay. And then shake some of the excess hay off it there. Okay, so there they are. And I think I'm going to leave that alone, just how I have it, because it's cute to me. It's just enough to give it that cute little touch of color or a touch of something. Like I said, you can do yours any way you choose. Leave it, add it, put something else on it. Just my take, just trying to give you some ideas and some inspiration. Alright, and then for the bow, I'm going to see how we have it on here. And it's actually a pretty good size, just like it is. So before I glue that on, I want to grab a piece of the smaller burlap ribbon. And all I'm going to do is just to cover up that piece of twine in the middle. I'm going to take my hot glue, add a little bit to the back here. Put my burlap piece on. My burlap small ribbon, just wrap it around the bow like so. Add a little more hot glue back here. Glue strings, then I'm just going to add some more glue to the back, and put it this way. Set my bow right in there, hold it down for a few to make sure it's good and stuck. And I may trim this piece. And there it is, all done. Easy to hang right here by this little hole in the top of the cutting board. Alright, and I will show pictures at the end of these hanging up. And I hope you enjoyed this DIY as well as the other two sign DIYs. These were done in a collaboration with Amy from Crafting with Amy. I will link her channel below in the description box. Be sure to check out her channel and all of her really cute ideas. And until the next one, guys, stay safe, have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.